My name is Ronnie Cruz, and this is Path of the Network Marketer.
All right, welcome back to the show. It is part 4, Lessons from 100 Days of Podcasting. Okay, so the message I want to convey to you today is this. You don't need to know everything to get started. You don't have to have everything right to launch. Now, I know this sounds absolutely insane to a lot of you out there listening, but hear me out. Looking back at the first 100 days of this show, of this podcast, I realized a couple of things. The first was something that was completely expected, and that is that I would know things today after 100 days of podcasting that I didn't know when I first got started. And naturally, right? And that's actually one of the purposes of doing this in the first place for me, was for it to be an educational process. I wanted to learn as I go. The second thing, however, was less obvious and completely not expected, and that is that I know things today that I didn't even know I needed to know when I first got started. It's that whole thing of I didn't know what I didn't know. So to think that I could predict 100% accuracy everything that I needed to know and all the pieces that I need to get right before I actually ever launched any piece of this marketing and content creation would have been absolutely impossible. And I would have spent 100 days trying to learn all of this stuff that I thought I needed to know instead of doing this stuff and learning as I went, right? Yeah, I get it. I get it. We all have the compulsion to want to get everything right and to know everything before we actually put anything out and get it on its feet because we fear failure. We fear getting it wrong. And also on top of that, all the noise out there, all the different programs and tools and resources and platforms and gurus and experts telling you that you need this, it needs to be this way, this is how to do it. If you're not doing this way, you're not a real marketer. All this stuff that's coming at you that's overwhelming and then convincing you unconsciously that you need to learn all of it before you actually do a single thing or launch a single thing or get anything off the ground. You're spending 100 days, again, learning as opposed to 100 days doing. Right? If I had done that, if I had gone into this thing thinking that I needed to know everything before I launched this 100-day journey, then I wouldn't have started. I would have still be spending all this time 100 days later learning something new. I would rather you learn and learn. It's not that learning is bad, but learning as you go is way more productive because at the very least, you're moving the needle closer to your goals. Right? And that's the whole thing, right? We want to get closer to our outcomes. We don't want to know more things, right? Knowing more things doesn't actually move that needle closer. It just puts more stuff in our heads. And all of that is useless unless you're applying it. So here's a couple of things that you can do. Number one, really hone in on what you need. And we talked about that in the last episode, right? Figure out your framework. And as I said, I will be launching and releasing a guideline for a framework that you can use. But figure out that framework and then the fundamentals that you need for that framework, and then just tailor make your strategies to what your specific needs are. There's not one that's right or more right than others. Yes, there are some better practices. However, that doesn't need to factor into your equation. You just need to look at what works best for you. There's no one singular answer, right? There's no one singular right thing out there. So tailor make it to you. Your journey is unique to your journey. The second thing is just take it one step at a time. Take it bite-sized pieces. And I've talked about that before in the past. And that was this whole thing, right? And that's why I encourage all of you to, if you can, do a 100-day journey because it is a learning process. Even with marketing in the long term, everything is iterative. As a business owner, as an entrepreneur, you have to be willing to get things wrong because getting things wrong is what gives you data to fix, right? Like you will then know what you need to improve and work on so that you can improve your processes moving forward. It's as simple as that. That's basic entrepreneurism. So don't be afraid to get things wrong. Actually embrace getting things wrong. Embrace it when things fall apart, because fall apart gives you a lot of information and a lot of data again. So that way you can fix it, hone it, tweak it, and improve the processes moving forward, right? But you only get to do that if you take steps. If you're just learning, which again is great, but it's not necessarily moving the needle forward, right? The only thing that moves the needle forward is actually taking steps. And to make it more manageable is taking it bite-sized, one step at a time, right? One step at a time, one day at a time. And before you know it, you're going to be at 100 days, right? The last thing is just keep it as simple as possible, right? You want as you want minimal friction at the beginning, because again, if you're trying to tackle all these very complex marketing tools and resources and principles all at once at the beginning, you're never going to launch because there's way too much friction, and you've convinced yourself you need to know all these things and to get all these things right before you even get started. So take it very, very simply. Whittle it down to only the very basics that you need to launch whatever marketing and content creation that you need, right? It's as simple as that. So you understand that your journey is unique to you. Take it in bite-sized steps and then keep it simple at the beginning. Remember, you don't need to know everything to get started, and you don't have to have everything right to launch. The fallacy in thinking that is thinking that you can perfect everything before you even get started. And the truth is, there's no such thing as perfect. No matter how well you taught yourself, no matter how refined your funnel and how perfect you think it is, how many pieces that of your marketing you got right before you even launch, no matter how well you worked it out, there's no such thing as perfect. Some piece of it is inevitably going to fall apart, but you'll never know that until you get it on its feet. So again, you don't have to know everything to get started. You don't have to have everything right to launch. That's the message for today's episode. So stay tuned tomorrow. More to come. We're still rolling with this retrospective. So many lessons, y'all. So many lessons to share with you. And hopefully this has been a fun journey so far. Much more to come. So stay tuned. Until then, be well, be safe. We'll see you in the next episode.